Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. I'm going to start tonight with a hot take. Donald Trump is not actually good at politics. In fact, you could argue there's no bigger loser in American politics than Donald Trump. I mean, just look at his record. Loss after loss after loss. Even the one win in 2016 when he won the presidency. Remember, he lost the popular vote by nearly 2.9 million votes. It's like 2 percentage points. Back in 2018, first midterm elections, his party lost control of the House. Democrats gained a net of 40 seats that year. Of course, in 2020, he lost both the Electoral College, 306 to 232, and the popular vote, with 7 million more Americans choosing Joe Biden over Donald Trump. Then just last week, the de facto head of the Republican Party once again, for the third election in a row, presided over a wildly disappointing loss, this one a midterm. Democrats will retain control of the Senate, and Republicans will take the House by a tiny, tiny sliver of margin. So whatever political pull Donald Trump may have once had, it does seem clear it's just no longer working. Of course, that's not stopping the ex-president from launching yet another bid for the White House from his exile at Mar-a-Lago last night. It was largely the same old nonsense, the same shtick, not a lot of new material. Rigged election, fake news, making America great again. But the hour-long speech was a brutal slog. I mean, really low energy. So much so that even Fox News at one point got bored and cut away for more than 10 minutes.
It's very, very much hurting our country. Germany tried it, Germany tried it. They were up for about a year. Remember I sent to Angela. Remember Angela? Do you remember Angela? Nobody's remembering her now. Angela Merkel.
Just joining us, President Trump in Mar-a-Lago announcing his 2024 presidential run. We're going to go back to the speech in just a minute. Let's get some quick snap reaction first from Pete Hegseth, who's been watching along with us. Pete, he went through every issue of success, every issue of failure as it relates to the Biden administration.
Sean, you're killing me. The Angela Merkel crowd work was amazing. Why would you cut away from that? And we would play some of the highlights from the president's speech, but there's honestly nothing to highlight. Like, you've seen this a million times. The most interesting part of the entire announcement was who did and did not attend. Trump's eldest daughter, Ivanka, a top advisor in his administration, along with her husband, was the most notable absence. In a statement that she gave basically during the speech, I think, she said she's quitting the game altogether. Quote, "I love my father very much. This time around, I am choosing to prioritize my young children, the private life we are creating as a family. I do not plan to be involved in politics." Donald Trump Jr., probably his father's biggest cheerleader, also missed the big announcement. Source tells the Daily Beast he was busy on a hunting trip in the Mountain West and couldn't get a flight out to make it back to the speech because of bad weather. Tough break. In fact, 16-year-old Barron and Eric Trump were the only two of Trump's 5 children in attendance. And the ex-president actually highlighted that during his speech. Trump did manage to gather a small crowd of fans in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, but as ABC's Jonathan Carr reported, even they couldn't make it through the whole thing.
I actually saw people trying to leave, and people leaving early even before he was done. He's still speaking now. And then they, I think, perhaps a little concerned that the hall would empty out too much. They actually started preventing people from leaving.
It's not just the people in the ballroom that were running for the exits. The fawning right-wing media is doing the same, turning on Trump as well. You've seen it. This morning, the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post relegated the news of the announcement to a banner at the bottom of the front page, cheekily, quote, "Florida man makes announcement." Buried on page 26 was the brief article headlined, "Been there, done that." It reads in part, quote, "If elected, Trump would tie Joe Biden as the oldest president to take office. His cholesterol levels are unknown, but his favorite food is charred steak with ketchup." Catty. Now, over on Fox News, another branch of the Murdoch empire, they have pretty clearly tried to move on from Trump. Again, Murdoch runs an empire that he controls, and he tells them what to do, and they're doing it. Get this, they didn't even include, this is the funniest graphic I've seen in cable news in literally years. They did not include the former president in their list of 13 potential 2024 candidates. See there in the right corner, I think that's Asa Hutchinson made the cut, not Donald Trump. And they appear to already have a clear favorite among the field. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, of course, who they call the new Republican Party leader in this recent op-ed. Today, this was the headline in the Conservative National Review. Different year, same guy, same stuff. Okay. Now, I know what you're saying, because I've been saying it too, right? I know. Everyone feels deja vu. Frankly, I can't believe we're all going to go through this again. It was 7 years ago. I was sitting in the studio with it down the escalator, the whole thing, the empty podiums. We have literally been here before. And it's also easy to forget this part of it because Republicans all jumped on the Trump train. They all humiliated themselves. They all prostrated themselves so intensely before him. But in the very beginning, that summer of 2015, when he came down the escalator, the conservative media was broadly against Donald Trump when he announced his first run for president. Remember this? At the very first Republican debate, Rupert Murdoch's Fox News was hosting it, and then Fox host Megyn Kelly grilled him about his misogynistic statements.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president?
God, that seems like another lifetime, right? You could hear the crowd laughing. It wasn't even going the way Murdoch and Kelly, I think, wanted it to go in that moment, because the Murdoch machine very clearly intended to take Trump down the last time. And it didn't work. The crowd was like, yeah, we love that. Calling them fat pigs. Woo! And once he started winning, the only calculation that Rupert Murdoch and Mitch McConnell and every other Republican leader was making was whether or not Trump would help them gain power. That's it. They never had or cared about any moral red line he might cross, how it would reflect on them, their eternal souls, the judgment of history, yada, yada, yada. That's true even after he tried to overthrow the government on January 6th, led a violent mob to the Capitol that chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." None of that mattered or matters. Mitch McConnell said it very plainly in an interview earlier this year.
You said Donald Trump's actions preceding the January 6th insurrection were a, quote, disgraceful dereliction of duty, and that he was practically and morally responsible.
Well, as the Republican leader of the Senate, it should not be a front-page headline that I will support the Republican nominee for president.
After you've said that about him, I think it's astonishing.
I think I have an obligation to support the nominee of my party.
Okay. So the only question about Donald Trump that matters to Republicans, to Rupert Murdoch and the conservative media and all that is whether he will hurt or help their quest for power. Does having Trump on their team help them in their ability to cut corporate taxes or not? That's it. 7 years ago, they thought he was going to hurt their chances to cut corporate taxes. But then he won in what was essentially a fluke election, where again, he lost by nearly 3 million votes. Republicans, and arguably everyone, overinterpreted that fluke and just hitched their ride to Trump. He's the future. He's our political messiah. Well, now they have basically lost 3 elections in a row. It's like sometimes they'll call up a young rookie in the major leagues, like the first game, they hit a homer. The first week, they're incredible. And then it's like, after a while, it's like, oh, they can't hit a curveball. That person can't play in the major leagues. They're actually bad at baseball. So, of course, in the interim, Donald Trump also has failed miserably on every substantive level. He got a lot of people killed from COVID unnecessarily, broke the law left and right, mounted, as we noted, a violent insurrection against the United States government for the first time ever. None of that was ever going to make them jump off the Trump train. What's finally pushing them off now is the fact they are right back where they were in 2015 when he came down the golden escalator. Everyone thought he was a loser who would be bad for the Republican Party's quest for power. Now, 7 years later, the question is, can they do anything about it this time? In 2016, the biggest challenge was the party was divided, couldn't rally around any single Trump challenger. Now they have Ron DeSantis, a candidate they are already trying to get the whole party behind. And Donald Trump is not doing himself any favors by running on the same old nonsense. Just listen to his former senior advisor, a guy who was recently convicted on 2 counts of criminal contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with the subpoena from the January 6th committee.
Wait to the House of Representatives next year when we have a real J6 committee, and we're going to adjudicate. Oh no, we're going to adjudicate all of 3 November. We can't. We're not
really
going to
believe.
100%.
You seriously
100%.
think it was a stolen stuff?
I 100% know it's
and people stormed the Capitol over the dude. These are lies.
That was not by Trump.
That guy there in his 2 shirts with his 2 convictions, 2 years later, they got the same tired shtick. It feels like it was already a washed-up campaign before it even began.